how much of the pressure is on you to start the Watson because of what you're paying?
Yeah, it's a great question. I know that can be a common narrative in professional sports, but you're 100% right that it doesn't matter what they're paid when they're on the field. Like, what we want are wins and performance and production. I think we saw good things from both guys. Obviously, look, it's preseason, so guys aren't going to be perfect. I think we continue to see major growth in Shedeur's game, both in terms of his processing speed. We know he's got a really natural touch with the deep ball. We know he's naturally accurate. I think you watch him in terms of how he navigates the pocket. That's greatly improved from his rookie year. And then really, the operation as well, because this offense puts a lot on the quarterbacks at the line of scrimmage. And I think both of those guys really handled it well. Obviously, don't like to see the turnover. I think Shedeur said after the game, eyes in the right place, good decision, didn't execute the throw, and that's accurate. Like, guys are going to have bad throws. In his case, I think obviously the inside of the pocket kind of got pushed into his lap a little bit, which probably caused a little bit of a higher trajectory on the throw. On the whole, a lot of good to take, and then some good moments where we're going to be able to coach off of them and then really improve as we go into the Buffalo week.
For weeks, one argument has been hanging over the Cleveland Browns quarterback competition like a giant shield protecting Deshaun Watson. The money. Every time Shedeur Sanders makes a strong throw, every time he handles pressure, every time he looks comfortable running this offense, somebody immediately brings up that massive Watson contract like it automatically ends the conversation. But Andrew Berry just made that excuse a whole lot harder to use, because the Browns' general manager made one thing very clear. When these quarterbacks step onto that field, Cleveland is supposed to care about performance, production, and winning football. And if Berry really means that, then the entire pressure inside this quarterback battle just changed. Because think about what that means for Deshaun Watson. The contract can no longer be the easy answer. His veteran status cannot be the easy answer. Cleveland cannot keep pointing backward at what they invested years ago if another quarterback starts giving Todd Monken better football right now. That is what makes this situation so interesting. Berry did not name Shedeur Sanders the starter. He did not promise him anything. But he did something that may matter almost as much. He publicly raised the standard for how this decision is supposed to be made. And that puts every quarterback rep under a brighter light. Every mistake matters more now. Every clean drive matters more. Every turnover becomes harder to ignore. Every third down conversion carries more weight. And when Shedeur Sanders makes one of those throws that gets everybody standing along the practice field talking, Browns fans now have every right to ask the obvious question. If this really is about production, what exactly is separating him from the veteran ahead of him? That is where things are starting to get uncomfortable in Cleveland. Shedeur Sanders is not going through training camp looking like a young quarterback who is simply happy to be included. He is attacking opportunities. He is pushing the ball downfield. He is trying throws against pressure. He is extending plays when the pocket changes around him. Most importantly, he keeps giving the coaching staff reasons to keep testing him instead of protecting him with a small, simple package. That matters. You can learn a lot about how a coaching staff views a quarterback by watching what they allow him to do. Coaches do not usually hand complicated situations to somebody they completely distrust. They do not keep calling aggressive concepts for a quarterback they think cannot process what he is seeing. They do not repeatedly put him in situations where one bad decision can ruin the entire play unless they want to find out exactly how much he can handle. Todd Monken appears to be finding that out with Shedeur right now, and the deeper this competition goes, the more dangerous that becomes for Watson. Not because Shedeur has already won anything, that would be getting ahead of the story, but because he has made it impossible to treat this like some automatic veteran coronation. If Shedeur were struggling badly, this would be easy. Cleveland could point toward experience, stability, and the veteran quarterback, then move forward without much noise. But that is not what is happening. Instead, Shedeur keeps creating moments that force people to look again. One of the biggest examples came when he faced pressure and still attacked downfield rather than immediately checking the ball underneath.
So when you say the only saving grace I can give is that they do have a joint practice, and obviously you can't hit the quarterback, so you still will get to see the line get beat and work with the line. And I know they're supposed to be rotating those reps with the ones, so I get that part of it. But
he's splitting them, but he gonna split them reps.
He's splitting the one reps, and I'm not a fan of that either. But I get it. You need that. You're gonna have to go into the game and at least play a quarter. I would at least give him a quarter. I need to see what it looks like. I want to see what the first 15 look like with Shedeur as well. If you telling him, hey, the first 15 scripted, get the ball out in a timely manner, I want to see what that. If it look as crisp as Deshaun, then Shedeur should win the competition, in my personal opinion, if that's the case, because he's doing more with the offense. And to me, you told me that when you got Todd Monken, it was about creating explosive plays and all those things. That is what he's going to do with Shedeur. You got to, as a defender, you got to defend every blade of grass. I told y'all on Tuesday, the way Deshaun played that game, if I'm a safety, I'm still not backing up because you ain't pushing the ball deep. And that's the same problem we had with Kevin when he was here, is that they wasn't pushing the ball deep. So now ultimately, guess what? If I'm a flat foot safety at 10, and I know you ain't pushing the ball down the field, now I'm in the run fit too. So now you ain't running the ball either. So that, to me, so far in that one game, that's been the biggest difference between Shedeur and Deshaun.
That kind of play tells you something about confidence, but it also tells you something about processing. When pressure comes, young quarterbacks usually show you very quickly whether the game is moving too fast for them. They rush, they panic, they drop their eyes, they throw the ball away before the route develops. Shedeur has shown stretches where he does the opposite. He keeps looking. He gives the play another second, and then he fires. That is exactly why Andrew Berry's comments hit differently right now. If Berry had made the same statement while Shedeur was having a terrible camp, nobody would care. But saying performance matters while Shedeur continues making noticeable plays creates a much bigger story. Cleveland has now publicly attached its decision to what happens between the lines. That means Watson has to win this battle with football. Not with a contract, not with his resume, not with what Cleveland hoped he would become when they originally brought him into the organization. With football. And suddenly, that sounds like a much tougher competition than some people expected, because Shedeur Sanders has already survived the easiest way Cleveland could have dismissed him. He did not disappear when the reps became more competitive. He did not suddenly look overwhelmed when the offense opened up. He has continued giving Monken enough positive tape to keep the conversation alive. Now the Browns have a fascinating problem. They wanted competition. They said performance matters, and Shedeur Sanders is forcing them to prove they actually mean it. Andrew Berry may have thought he was simply answering a question about money, but what he really did was put the entire Cleveland Browns organization under a microscope. Because once the general manager says this quarterback decision is supposed to come down to performance and production, fans are going to hold the Browns to that standard every single day. That changes everything. Now every Deshaun Watson mistake is going to be compared directly to what Shedeur Sanders is doing. Every interception, every stalled drive, every missed read is going to raise another question. And on the other side, every strong Shedeur throw, every clean red zone possession, every third down conversion is going to make this competition harder for Cleveland to explain away. That is the pressure Berry just created. Before those comments, there was always an easy escape route. If Watson struggled, people could still say Cleveland had too much invested in him. They could point to the contract, his experience, or the time the organization had already spent trying to make this work. It gave the Browns room to make a veteran decision, even if the football on the field did not completely support it. Now that excuse is much weaker. Berry has basically told the fan base to watch the football. So that is exactly what people are going to do. They are going to watch who moves the offense. They are going to watch who protects the football. They are going to watch who handles pressure better. They are going to watch which quarterback looks comfortable when the play breaks down. And most importantly, they are going to watch what Todd Monken does when the competition starts getting uncomfortable.
I don't think it's a mistake. Why are we still having this conversation about Shedeur?
Because he's in the mix to be the quarterback in Cleveland.
But meaning, how much more time does he need to emerge as the guy? Like, I feel like he's gotten a lot of, but I think he's had opportunities. You have to beat Dylan Gabriel. You've got to beat, Deshaun Watson, who's had, obviously a lot of tread on the tires, is not at his best self. I think Shedeur Sanders has been given a great opportunity to say he's the guy. And I think if that were clear, that's exactly what the Browns would say.
That is where this story gets really interesting. Because Monken is no longer dealing with a simple veteran versus young player situation. Shedeur Sanders keeps doing enough to force more conversation. He keeps creating the kind of plays that make coaches go back to the film room and take another look. He is not making this easy for anybody, and that matters more than any training camp headline. Quarterback competitions are usually decided when one player gives the coaching staff peace of mind. The coach wants to know who can run the offense without creating chaos. Who can get everybody lined up? Who can recognize pressure? Who can stay calm after a bad play? Who can make the right decision when the defense shows something different than expected? Shedeur is slowly answering more of those questions. That does not mean he has been perfect. He has not. No quarterback is going through an NFL camp without mistakes, especially a younger player still learning a system. But the important part is that his mistakes have not stopped the progress. He keeps coming back. He keeps taking the next rep. He keeps attacking the same areas defenses are trying to challenge. That is how a quarterback earns trust. And once a young quarterback starts earning trust, everything changes inside a competition. Now the coaching staff has to ask harder questions. Do we really have the best player taking the most important reps? Are we judging both quarterbacks by the same standard? Are we rewarding production or are we protecting experience? Those questions are dangerous for any veteran quarterback when the younger player is gaining ground. And Watson knows this is not just about reputation anymore. He cannot simply look serviceable. He cannot just avoid disaster. If Barry truly means what he said, Watson has to clearly separate himself from Shedeur Sanders on the field. He has to give Monken a football reason to choose him. That is a much tougher standard. Because Shedeur does not need to carry Watson's resume. He does not need to prove what he did years ago. He only needs to keep showing Cleveland what he can do now. That is one of the biggest advantages a young quarterback can have in a competition like this.
We've preached competition since we've been here, and that'll hold true in the quarterback room. We're looking for performance. We like to keep at least 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster, provided that they earn the spot, and another on the practice squad.
Where does Shedeur sit right now? What are your expectations for him this year?
To take another step and keep growing and learning. I think he's had a really nice offseason. He did a really nice job at voluntary minicamp. I think his improvements in decision-making and pocket management by the end of the year, and certainly what we've seen so far in a very short spring, have been positive. And I expect him to have more command of the offense and better ball security and situational awareness as we go into year 2.
Does Deshaun have an advantage over him?
I don't know that any player has an advantage. I think certainly experience helps. I wouldn't say that in and of itself gives any player an advantage. But at the end of the day, who plays, that's Todd's call.
Every good day feels like progress. Every strong practice gives the coaches new information. Every moment of growth creates another reason to keep the door open. For Watson, the situation is completely different. Every bad day brings back old concerns. Every turnover gets magnified. Every time the offense looks smoother with another quarterback, people notice. That is why Barry's comments were so important. He did not just remove the contract argument, he shifted the entire conversation toward accountability. And accountability is where things can get uncomfortable very quickly. Because if Cleveland eventually picks Watson, fans are going to ask why. If Cleveland eventually picks Shedeur, fans are going to understand exactly what Barry meant. Either way, the Browns have now made a public promise without actually calling it one. They have told everybody that money is not supposed to decide this. Football is. So from this point forward, Todd Monken cannot hide behind reputation. Andrew Barry cannot hide behind investment. Deshaun Watson cannot hide behind the size of his deal. This is where the Browns quarterback competition starts getting uncomfortable, because Shedeur Sanders is no longer giving Cleveland the kind of camp they can casually dismiss. He is not standing on the sideline waiting for somebody else to fail. He is creating his own case, one practice at a time, and that case is getting harder to ignore. That is the part people need to understand. Shedeur does not have to be perfect to change this competition. He does not have to throw a touchdown on every drive. He does not have to look like a finished veteran quarterback in August. What he has to do is keep showing Todd Monken enough good football that Cleveland cannot make this decision without seriously considering him. And that is exactly what keeps happening. There have been throws where Shedeur has stayed aggressive against pressure instead of immediately dumping the football underneath. There have been moments where he has bought extra time, kept his eyes downfield, and still found the right target. There have been red zone reps where he has shown touch, timing, and enough mobility to keep the defense guessing. Those are not meaningless details. Those are the details coaches study when they are deciding whether a quarterback can actually run their offense. Any quarterback can look comfortable when the first read is open and the pocket is clean. The real test comes when the defense changes the picture. When the rush gets home faster than expected. When the coverage rotates after the snap. When the easy throw disappears and the quarterback has to make a decision under pressure. That is where Shedeur keeps making this battle interesting. He has shown that he is willing to stand in there and keep searching for the play. He is willing to challenge the defense. He is willing to throw beyond the sticks instead of constantly settling for the safest option. Sometimes that aggression can create risk, and that is part of the learning process, but it also tells Monken something important. This quarterback is not scared of the moment. And in a competition this close, confidence matters. Not fake confidence, not press conference confidence, real confidence when a defender is coming free, and the quarterback still trusts what he sees. That is the kind of thing teammates notice too. Receivers notice when a quarterback gives them a chance downfield. Offensive linemen notice when a quarterback does not panic the second the pocket gets dirty. Coaches notice when a player gets corrected on one rep and comes back a few minutes later without making the same mistake. That is how a young quarterback starts changing the room, and Shedeur appears to be doing exactly that. What makes this even more interesting is the way Todd Monken is using him. If the Browns only wanted to keep Shedeur around as a developmental project, they could make everything simple. Short throws, basic reads, safe concepts. Get the ball out quickly and avoid putting too much responsibility on him. But when you start asking a quarterback to handle pressure looks, deeper route combinations, red zone decisions, movement outside the pocket, and more aggressive concepts, you are testing something bigger. You are asking whether he can eventually control the whole operation. That is why the actual play calls matter as much as the final stat line. Monken is gathering information. Can Shedeur handle more? Can he recognize what the defense is doing? Can he make the right decision when the first option disappears? Can he stay aggressive without becoming reckless? Every time the answer looks encouraging, Cleveland has another problem to solve. Because Deshaun Watson is not competing against the idea of Shedeur Sanders anymore. He is competing against actual tape. That is a major difference. It is easy to dismiss a young quarterback when all you have is hype. It is easy to say fans are getting carried away. It is easy to tell everybody to be patient when there is nothing concrete happening on the field. But once the young quarterback starts stacking good reps, the conversation changes. Now people can point to specific throws, specific drives, specific situations. And that forces the veteran to answer with his own football. That is why this competition could become much more intense from here. Watson does not need Shedeur to look decent. He needs to clearly look better than him if Cleveland truly intends to make this decision based on performance. Anything less keeps the door open. And Shedeur keeps finding ways to keep that door open. That might be the biggest story of his entire camp so far. He has not allowed Cleveland to make an easy decision. Every time there is a chance for the competition to settle down, he gives Monken another reason to keep watching. Another aggressive throw, another composed rep, another moment where he looks more comfortable than he did a week earlier. That steady growth is dangerous in a quarterback battle because coaches can live with a young player making mistakes if they can see those mistakes shrinking. What scares a veteran is when the younger quarterback starts learning faster than expected. And if that is what Cleveland is seeing right now, then this is no longer just a camp storyline. This is becoming a real decision. Andrew Berry already said the Browns want performance and production to matter. Todd Monken keeps giving Shedeur meaningful opportunities to show what he can handle. Todd Monken does not have to walk into a press conference and announce that he trusts Shedeur Sanders. He can show it with the way he runs the offense. And right now, that may be the most important part of this entire quarterback competition. Because coaches tell you what they think in two different ways. They tell you with words, and then they tell you with responsibility. The second one matters more. If Monken believes Shedeur was nowhere close, Cleveland could make his job extremely simple. Quick throws, safe reads, basic concepts, limited movement, protect the quarterback, protect the football, and keep the offense inside a small box. But that is not the picture being described. Shedeur is being asked to handle pressure. He is getting chances to attack downfield. He is working through red zone situations. He is moving outside the pocket. He is being put in spots where one wrong read can kill the entire play. That is not babysitting, that is testing. And every time Monken gives him another one of those situations, he is gathering information about how far Shedeur can really go. Can he recognize the blitz before it gets home? Can he stay calm when the first read disappears? Can he reset his feet after moving in the pocket? Can he make an aggressive throw without turning aggressive into reckless? Those are starter-level questions. And that is why the play calling tells such an important story. A coach does not need to publicly crown anybody in August. In fact, Monken would be crazy to do that before the competition is finished. But if one quarterback keeps receiving more difficult situations and continues handling them well, that matters. That is how trust gets built. Not through hype, not through fan reaction, through reps. And Shedeur keeps getting reps that actually require him to think and react like a real NFL quarterback. That is where this becomes dangerous for Deshaun Watson. Because Watson has experience on his side. He knows NFL defenses. He has already seen complex pressure packages. He has already played meaningful football at this level. So if Shedeur starts handling some of the same responsibilities without looking overwhelmed, then Watson's experience alone becomes less powerful as an argument. He still has to show the difference. That is the pressure a veteran quarterback feels when a younger player starts closing the mental gap. Everybody expects the veteran to understand the offense. Everybody expects the veteran to recognize pressure. Everybody expects the veteran to command the huddle. When the younger quarterback begins doing those things too, now the comparison moves somewhere else. Who is more accurate? Who creates more explosive plays? Who protects the football? Who gives the offense more energy? Who finishes drives? That is when a quarterback competition gets real, and Monken is sitting right in the middle of it. Remember, this is not just about one flashy throw. Coaches do not make decisions because somebody hit one deep ball in practice. They look for patterns. Can the quarterback do it again? Can he make the same read against a different coverage? Can he recover after a mistake? Can he still execute when the defense starts adjusting? That is what Monken is trying to find out. And every time Shedeur answers one of those questions correctly, Cleveland has to give him another one. That is how the ladder works. You do not jump from developmental quarterback to starter in one practice. You earn more responsibility. You handle it. Then the coaches give you more. And if Shedeur keeps moving through those steps, the Browns may eventually reach a point where they cannot keep calling this a simple veteran advantage. The tape starts getting too loud. That is the part that matters most. Monken can say the competition is close. Barry can say production matters. Reporters can debate it every single day. But if the offense keeps opening up for Shedeur, that is something everyone can actually see. It tells you Cleveland wants answers. And it tells you they believe Shedeur is capable of giving them those answers. That does not mean Monken has already made his decision. It means Shedeur is still forcing the decision to stay open. And that may be even more important right now. Because the easiest thing for Cleveland would be for one quarterback to clearly pull away. The coaches could name the starter, move forward, and spend the rest of camp building chemistry. Instead, Shedeur keeps making them evaluate another rep, another drive, another pressure look, another red zone possession. That is exactly what a young quarterback wants. Stay alive in the competition long enough for the football to decide it. And if Andrew Berry truly means that salary does not matter once the ball is snapped, then Monken has to keep watching exactly what is happening in front of him. Not what Watson used to be. Not what Shedeur might become 2 years from now. What are they right now? That question is getting harder every day. This is where the quarterback competition becomes brutally simple for Deshaun Watson. If Andrew Berry really means what he said, Watson has to beat Shedeur Sanders with football. Not with money, not with experience, not with the size of the investment Cleveland already made. He has to be the better quarterback on the field. That sounds obvious, but in Cleveland it changes the entire conversation. For a long time, the Watson contract has hovered over every quarterback discussion. People look at the guaranteed money and immediately assume the Browns will eventually lean toward the player they invested the most in. It became the easiest explanation for everything. But Barry just made that explanation much harder to defend. If production matters, then produce. If performance matters, then perform. If winning matters, then show Cleveland which quarterback gives this offense the best chance to win. That is the standard now. And that standard creates pressure on Watson because Shedeur Sanders is not disappearing. He keeps showing enough to force the comparison. He keeps giving Todd Monken another reason to evaluate the competition instead of ending it. That is the worst thing that can happen to a veteran quarterback in this situation. Watson does not need Shedeur to look promising. He needs separation. He needs to walk onto that field and make the difference obvious. The offense should look cleaner. The decisions should come faster. The ball should be protected. The explosive plays should be there. When a veteran is competing against a younger quarterback, experience is supposed to show up in those areas. If it does not, then everybody starts asking the same uncomfortable question: what exactly is Cleveland waiting for? That question gets louder every time Shedeur makes another strong play. And this is why the next stage of the competition matters so much. Practice can tell coaches a lot. They can evaluate footwork, timing, progressions, command communication, and how a quarterback reacts when the defense changes the look. But eventually, you need game situations. You need the play clock moving. You need defenders trying to finish tackles. You need 3rd and long. You need red zone. You need a drive where the quarterback makes a mistake and has to come back 5 minutes later without carrying that mistake into the next possession. That is where this battle can change fast, because preseason football removes some of the protection that exists on the practice field. A coach cannot stop the rep and explain what happened. The quarterback has to figure it out in real time. And that is exactly why the Buffalo matchup carries so much weight. Shedeur does not need some ridiculous stat line to make his point. He does not need 300 yards. He does not need 4 touchdowns. He needs command. Can he get Cleveland in and out of the huddle? Can he identify pressure? Can he keep the offense moving after a bad play? Can he make a difficult throw when Buffalo takes away the easy option? Can he finish drives instead of just creating highlights between the 20s? Those are the questions that matter, and Watson will be judged by the same standard. That is where Barry's comments become impossible to ignore. Cleveland has publicly connected this competition to performance. Once you do that, you cannot suddenly change the rules when one quarterback starts making the decision uncomfortable. Fans are going to notice. If Watson clearly plays better, then the Browns have their answer. If Shedeur clearly plays better, then Cleveland has another answer. But if they are close, that may create the biggest problem of all, because then the argument shifts toward upside momentum and which quarterback the offense seems to respond to better. That is where Shedeur can make this very interesting. He brings a different kind of energy to the competition. He is younger. He is still growing inside the system. Every strong performance creates the possibility that there is another level coming. Watson is judged differently. He is the veteran. The expectation is already there. Nobody is going to celebrate a veteran quarterback simply looking comfortable. He is supposed to look comfortable. Nobody is going to excuse repeated mistakes by saying he is still learning how NFL football works. The bar is naturally higher. That may not always feel fair, but that is what comes with experience. And if Shedeur starts approaching that same level while still showing room to grow, Todd Monken has to think about what comes next. Not just week one, not just the first month. What gives Cleveland the best offense moving forward? That is the decision lurking underneath everything. And now the Watson contract cannot be the entire answer. That is why this competition has suddenly become so dangerous for the veteran. The money might still exist on Cleveland's books, but it cannot throw the football for him. The contract cannot convert 3rd and 8. The contract cannot read a blitz. The contract cannot protect the ball. The contract cannot finish a red zone drive. The quarterback has to do that. And if Shedeur Sanders keeps doing those things well enough to stay right beside Watson, then eventually Cleveland is going to run out of reasons to avoid the comparison. And now, Cleveland has reached the point where there should be no more hiding behind old arguments. No more pretending this is only about money, and no more treating Shedeur Sanders like he is just a side story in somebody else's quarterback competition. Andrew Barry has already made the standard clear. Performance matters, production matters, winning matters, so now prove it. Put Deshaun Watson on the field, put Shedeur Sanders on the field. Give both quarterbacks real opportunities, real pressure, and real responsibility, then let the football make the decision. Because if Watson is clearly better, Browns fans will see it. But if Shedeur keeps making plays, keeps moving the offense, keeps handling pressure, and keeps forcing Todd Monken to trust him with more of the playbook, then Cleveland cannot keep looking the other way. That is what makes this next stretch so important. This is no longer about who has the bigger contract. It is no longer about who came into the league with the bigger name. It is about which quarterback gives this team the best chance when the game starts moving fast and every mistake actually matters. And Shedeur has already done something nobody should ignore. He has kept this competition alive. He has forced Cleveland to keep evaluating. He has forced Watson to keep answering. And he has forced Todd Monken to think about a decision that may have looked much easier before training camp started. Now I want to hear from you. If Andrew Barry really means that money does not decide this competition, who should be leading this quarterback battle right now? Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson? Drop your answer in the comments and tell me why. And if Shedeur goes out there and delivers when the pressure gets even higher, Cleveland may finally reach the moment everybody has been waiting for. The moment when the Browns stop talking about the competition and actually choose the quarterback who earned it. Subscribe if you want the next breakdown, because we are following every major turn in this Browns quarterback battle, and this story is getting harder to ignore by the day.